We want to remind everyone we have social media exclusive content like our 2-minute drill as well as other video content. To find that, please make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok for more. We are kicking off episode number 8 of the Let's Be Frank video podcast. I'm your host, Jason Duhe. Shortly, I'll be joined by head coach Frank Monica, and we have a great episode tonight. We're going to be recapping Week 7 of high school football in Louisiana, previewing Week 8. Going to talk LSU, Tulane Saints recaps and previews. We have special guest, former East St. John, LSU, and professional quarterback Ryan Perrilloux. And Coach Monica is going to talk about the impact that the 40-second game clock has on the high school football game. But before we go into our show, we want to go ahead and take a moment to thank our title sponsor, Accardo and Dufresne Law Firm, your go-to River Parish lawyers. So we'll go ahead and bring in Coach Monica. Coach, Week 8 is upon us in the high school season. At this point, you're just hoping to stay healthy and head into the postseason with a bang.
No question. And then all of a sudden now everybody's really have an eye out for the power rankings and the power rankings system. There was a couple jumps in the rankings this past week, and now that you get a little bit closer to the end, people are really honing in, and they also starting to say, wait a minute now, I can't fall below number 2 or number 3. And they're starting to also look at that bracket and say, who's the possible first-round matchup? And the reason they're doing that, because a lot of the districts now, they not have been decided, but there's only have one game left, probably, that can make a difference in their schedule.
Thanks, Coach. And we're going to go ahead and head on to our recaps, where we're going to look at first game in our prep talk segment. Lafayette Christian took on Turlings Catholic, and it was a one-sided affair. Lafayette Christian won 62-3 in this ball game. A really dominant game for them. They had it was 5 interceptions in 7 pass attempts at one point in the game. A really tough day, but of course, quarterback Juwan Johnson, 4 touchdowns, 300 yards passing the ball, had a phenomenal game. But this is a big win for that ball club.
Well, I didn't think that Turlings could beat them. See them earlier in the year against St. Charles Catholic. I didn't think that defense would hold up against Lafayette Christian, but I did think that Turlings was going to score more than they did. They have a real good quarterback, but I think a couple of balls were just floated up in the air. But Turlings just doesn't have the speed to stay with Lafayette Christian. Not as of right now. They'd have to get some breaks, but the score surprised me. I didn't think it'd be that lopsided.
And this is a team you have to watch out for in the playoffs, no doubt. 3 of those mentioned interceptions went to Chris Hilaire for Lafayette Christian. They have just a well-rounded ball club. In our next matchup, we have John Curtis, who took on Acadiana, 28-0 victory for John Curtis, grounding it out in the ground game. We mentioned their air, that they can pass the football. They only passed for around 78 yards, but didn't need to. You have all those backs that can run the football, and when your defense is able to pitch a shutout against Acadiana, you have to say you had a pretty good day, regardless of where Acadiana is at this point in the season.
Well, also, Curtis has always been known for that defense. They talk about that veer, but the last 2 weeks, I think they gave up more points than they have in a long time. We've got to go back and look at their ledger. I don't think I remember ever them on a 2-game stretch giving that many points. But you knew they would play well. I didn't think anybody saw the shutout coming. Acadiana's a good team. They'll be there. Now, remember, they're on the select side also. So this could be a rematch down the road. But that's a big win for Curtis, playing at home, playing at the Shrine. And you knew that they weren't going to lose 3 in a row.
Speaking of that defense, 3 forced turnovers in that matchup against Acadiana. In our next game, we had Shaw defeating Belchase 41-15. Shaw's a really good ball club, Coach. They started off rough, but have really been hitting their stride at this point in the season.
I think they found the passing game. The quarterback has gotten a lot better. They got a couple of receivers. They have some skilled guys. The running back, quarterback are real thick guys, hard to bring down. Belchase is speedy, but they don't have the linemen that can compete with Shaw right now. But again, that was quite a matchup. Big win for Shaw, and there's not much in their way for the rest of the season until they get to the playoffs.
In our next matchup, we had Carr taking on Jesuit, 35-7. You mentioned it'd be closer than what people thought. It was at one point, Coach. It was a tie ball game. Jesuit actually held Carr out of the end zone right before half on the 1-yard line. Carr scored 28 points in the final 16 minutes of that game. Really made the difference, and that's why Carr is who they are. They just can make plays happen in a moment's notice, and Jesuit just couldn't play catch up with them offensively.
No, the first half and Jets was really good on defense. They have a good scheme. They have good coaches on defense, and you're going to have to beat them. They won't have the speed to stay with somebody like Carr, but Carr's got more speed than probably anybody in the state. But yet, for the last couple of weeks, they have started slowly. So, and I don't know if they're as explosive as they are. The only way that Jesuit could actually contain them is if they control the football, control the clock, shrink the game, give them less possessions, and that didn't happen in the second half.
Thanks, Coach. In our next matchup, we had St. Charles taking on St. Martinville, 43-15 victory for the Comets. Scored 35 unanswered points to end that ball game. He had a kickoff return for a touchdown. I'm sure you loved that from Caden Foster, but a nice effort for the Comets, and they just continue along their merry way to an unbeaten 7-0 start.
Yeah, Caden Foster, I don't know if anybody knows. He had a serious operation. He had a transplant. And he got an extra year of eligibility, and no one thought he was going to be able to play football again. And he's just having a great year. He has the big kickoff return that really swung the game around because the game was pretty close at halftime. St. Martinville was hanging in there, but nobody plays better football than St. Charles when it comes to complementary football, meaning their offense, defense, and special teams complements one another. And I mean that nobody is they're well-rounded, and Coach Stein continues to impress impress upon the players the importance of special teams and offense taking care of the football, and they did that. Brandon Craig with a tight end, he's coming up with a phenomenal catch in that ball game. But St. Martinville had two players. One's going to ULL, is a ULL commit, and a receiver going to Arizona State. And I'm telling you, they were excellent. And just to contain them was a big thing. But again, when you play complementary football on the road, it was a big win. So St. Charles, I think they just moved up to number one in the power ranking also because of that win.
You're absolutely right. And Steven Blanco, the running back you mentioned for ULL, 121 yards and a touchdown. And Craggle went for 76 in the score as well for the Comets. In our next matchup, we had Rummel taking on St. Aug, 21-14 victory for Rummel. They scored all their points in the first half. But, Coach, it just seems that Rummel continues to get hit by that injury bug. Buggage goes down. I believe it was in the second half. And then Jaden Martin as well. Two key players that they're going to need down the stretch. They get the win, but at what cost?
I mean, the defense really showed up in the second half because they had to. Because Rummel didn't have but one first down, and that was late in the ball game. They had a manufacturer take a free safety, put him at running back because Martin went down, and he really went down when he was just standing there. It was actually a false start, and he gets blown up on a false start. Then the quarterback goes down after that, and more importantly, they had some center snapped on the ground most of the night in that second half. But the defense came around. They got a big interception when St. Aug was pressing. It was 21-14. Had it gone to overtime, it had been really hard for Rummel. But the defense, time and time again, did not allow them to cross the 50-yard line and shut them down. So huge win for them. But right now they're bruised up and limping, and they have to find a way to kind of finish this thing out.
Well, one way or the other, they're going to have to play out the rest of the season. So hopefully they can piece it together some way, somehow. As our next matchup, Brother Martin knocks off undefeated Holy Cross 22-19. We talked with Coach Bonis just a week ago. His team played a possession baseball game, which we discussed probably is the way to go. They only held Holy Cross to 6 possessions in the game. Holy Cross scored on 3 of them, but a hats off to the defense. And, of course, you had running back for Brother Martin, Jordan West, can have a heck of a ball game, another 100-plus yard game for him.
Well, they also play great complementary football. Brother Martin does, and that's what happened. They kept Holy Cross's offense off the field, and they gave them less at bats. The last 8.5 minutes of that game, Brother Martin has the ball inside their own 5-yard line, and they ran out the clock for 8 minutes, just running the football and keeping the ball away from Holy Cross. Most high school games will have 10, maybe to 12 possessions at best, an offense. But in this particular ball game, having half those, I mean, that's hard to win a football game if you have just that few at bats. So you have to score every time you have the ball. So it was a big win for Brother Martin, but that's how they do it.
Thanks, Coach. We're going to go ahead and move on to our previews. As our first matchup, we have John Curtis taking on St. Aug in a Saturday game. Curtis has just pitched a shutout against a pretty good Acadiana ball club. St. Aug has struggled to score. In their last 5 games, only putting up 14.6 points a game. And Curtis's offensive line, big and physical, We know the type of talent St. Aug has defensively up front. That's where the game is going to be won or lost, Coach, is in the offensive line of Curtis and the defensive line of St. Aug.
No question. I think, if St. Aug minimizes their mistakes, and they're going to have to minimize their mistakes to be able to stay on the field with Curtis. But because they have the people that can play with them. They have the linemen that can play with them, and certainly speed on the outside. Quarterback can really spin. He's not a big guy, but he can really spin the ball. But Curtis is just really, really good at just running right at you and controlling that clock also. But I think this would be a heck of a football game. And this, I think, is also a Saturday game. So it will be interesting to see how this works out. A lot of people get a chance to see that. And, I just think St. Aug is really, really, they're a little down right now as far as mentally, but they have to win to make sure that they can get in that top 24 spot as far as the playoffs are concerned.
Thanks, Coach. In our next matchup, we have a very interesting matchup between Holy Cross and Edna Carr. It should be an exciting one. Carr averages 34.5 points per game. Holy Cross averages 41. This could be a high-scoring affair. We know the talent that Holy Cross has in their quarterback position with Canatella, and you have Kobe Young at wide receiver. You also have Cross Johnson. But we know Carr has played phenomenal defensive football, Coach. 7.3 points per game, and against a phenomenal schedule, I might add. So this should be a fascinating matchup between this defensive Carr and this offensive Holy Cross. I
think if Carr's got to realize, okay, can I run the football in Holy Cross? And, what has happened so far, the trend has been that people can run the ball on them, but I think Carr has to be patient. If they think they can just throw it all over the lot, the secondary of Holy Cross is good enough to actually contain that. But Carr is also very explosive. You know that you can contain them for 3 downs, and all of a sudden, boom, on the 3rd down, they hit you with a big one, and they'll go for it a lot on 4th down. But Holy Cross, it will be a scoring fest. You can see that, and I think the only chance that Holy Cross has to win that ball game is to make it high scoring.
Coach, at what point do you concede that this is going to be a high-scoring game? I know the style of play that you played at St. Charles Catholic was very slow-paced, grounded out, and control the clock. At what point do you have to accept as a coach, even if it's not your style, this is going to be an offensive scoring matchup, it's going to be a track meet, and I have to just roll with it?
I think the 2 things you do. One, you might tell yourself, okay, I go into the game with a lot of 4th down calls. I might have to, just to keep my defense off the field, I might have to gamble a little bit. I might have to come up with a gadget play on offense. I might have to come up with a gadget on special teams. But I want to steal a possession, maybe onside kick or something like that, to know I got to slow them down, because some matchup, there's not a good matchup. So sometimes you have to say, how can I steal a possession here or there and keep them off the field? So it's not easy knowing that you're going against a juggernaut of an offense.
Thanks, Coach. And looking at our next matchup, it's going to be Brother Martin taking on Rummel. We've talked at length about Rummel and the amount of injuries that they've had. Buggage, their quarterback, had really been hitting his stride, been playing phenomenal football. He goes down. Then you got Jaden Martin goes down. And we know their defense has stepped up, but the style of play that Brother Martin plays, they're going to ground it out with Jordan West. They're going to put their defense on the field and let Marco Flores and Chase Chesser of the defense run down the guys and make plays, averaging up, only giving 15 points a game. That's going to be a tough game to win for Rummel.
No question. And I think Coach Nick Monica realizes that. I think he realizes that in order for him to win the football game, well, this is my thinking anyway, it's going to have to be a low-scoring ball game. And it's important for his team to get the ball game into the second half and still be within striking distance of maybe winning it. Because if the quarterback is not back, it's going to be a long, long night for them. And if the running back is not playing, they have to play left-handed and play with a guy that's never played much at the tailback position. So they're not going to get many other people back, from what I understand from him. But Brother Morton is, they're not going to turn the ball over. They're not going to give you the football game. You have to earn everything, and every yard will be crucial. Every kick will be crucial. So you're going to have to be solid in all phases. But I think for Rummel just to be competitive in this ball game, it's going to have to be low scoring.
Thanks, Coach. In our next matchup, we have Mandeville taking on St. Paul's. A Division I select and a non-select matchup between these two teams. St. Paul's defense has played really good football. There's no other way to put it. 9 points a game that they're giving up. They have a really nice defense, and they've done a phenomenal job. We do know Mandeville has some playmakers. Nate Shepard at running back, They have a quarterback that can spin it as well, and Caleb Jacob. But really, they have a defensive front that might be able to put some pressure on St. Paul's. But, man, the Wolves have been playing really good football.
No question. I think they'll be hard to score on. That they're very physical football team. The people that we've talked to that's played against them and they'll hit. I mean, St. Paul will be a rugged football team, and that's what you really want. I mean, you want your team to be physical. You want them not to back down from anybody, and that physicality is you cannot duplicate that in practice. So when you try to go get your scout team, you don't know how until you get hit in the mouth in a ball game, you might think you're ready. But all of a sudden, when that guy opponent across from you, and he sticks you 2 or 3 times, everybody kind of crumbles a little bit. So everybody's got a breaking point. There's an expression I use all the time: break the wheel. And there's a point in the ball game, wherever it might be. It might be the 3rd touchdown, the 4th touchdown you score against someone, or maybe they can't get anything going. If you break a team's wheel, you're normally going to win 100% of your games.
Coach, when you go into a matchup, I know you probably hate to have this mindset, but when you know your team is going to be out-physical, right? When you know that the other team is more physical than you, is bigger than you, how do you have to approach that matchup from an offensive standpoint, a defensive standpoint, when you know they're going to come out and hit you in the mouth and you're not sure how your guys are going to respond?
Well, the way you do, number one, you have to use a little bit more finesse. Sometimes you have to use finesse to do some things, maybe run more counter plays or something, get the ball to the perimeter, maybe throw the ball short. Use the short pass control, more screen passes, just a little bit more finesse. Because if you just try to stand up and line up and play big boy football with them, knowing that you're outmanned, this because a lot of times the biggest thing in offensive linemen is their strength level. And, offensive linemen as a whole, they're normally weaker than defensive players. And that's why they're on defense. And it all depends how you build your team. Some coaches build the offense first. I always believe that the strength of your team should be your defense first, and then everybody else plays offense and special teams.
Thanks, Coach. And looking at our next matchup, we have Covington taking on Slidell. Covington has scored 20 points per game. They're sitting at 27th in Division I non-select, while Slidell sits at 37th. This is a big matchup just in terms of who's going to get in, because they're both on that kind of the borderline, and we know with this expanded playoff, every game matters. There's a close encounter between two ball clubs, and they're familiar with one another. This will be a fascinating matchup.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jason. People might be wondering why we're covering the North Shore here, because that league is still competitive as far as the district play is concerned, because a lot of district games right now are not really competitive. There are a lot of weak opponents and that the better teams are playing. But, these teams are all close together. I mean, they're all kind of rivals in itself. And as you said, Ponchatoula is probably the highest ranked in all the power rankings. The rest of them will be struggling at the bottom of the power ranking schedule right now to try to see if they can get in. So every ball game that they play, it's going to be very important. Even though Slidell has not been very, very good lately, they're not out of it. They can run the table and still be there at the end.
Travell Watts for Slidell is going to have to play a big role in that. He's a under the radar guy at the running back position for that ball club. He's going to have to step up in that matchup to keep that offense on the field. Looking at the next game, we have Chalmette taking on John Ehret. Chalmette sitting at 12th in non-select Division I, while John Ehret sits at 17th. Chalmette's been playing really good football, Coach. They've only got one loss, and that's to Holy Cross, who sits atop right now in second place in the power rankings in the select side of Division I. It's almost a tongue twister the way you got to go back and forth with those sayings. But I think Chalmette's playing really good football right now, and Ehret's going to have to come out, and they have a nice backfield both on offense and defense. They're going to have to slow down this passing attack of Chalmette and try to find a way to ground out a win.
Yeah, I think Chalmette, Coach Tucker's done, and real proud of him because, he's endured some tough seasons, but, they've been very consistent, and they will hit you. I mean, there's another physical program, and so is John Ehret. John Ehret's a proud program, goes way, way back when they won a Superdome almost every year, something like that. So they still have athletes, but this is in the conference a schedule, district schedule that they've been playing for a long, long time, and it's normally the championships normally come out of this particular ball game.
Thanks, Coach. And Chalmette averages nearly 40 points a game on offense. Their offense has really shown. But, Coach, an interesting thing is their quarterback is a former tight end, and it's Ethan Couvion is their quarterback. Coach, what's the most I don't want to say awkward, but what's the weirdest transition you've had to ask a guy to make from the position maybe he wanted to play or he played the year before to a season just so your team had the best opportunity to win a ball game?
Well, I had to take a guy who was a safety, and by the name of Zach Vickner, and he was a running back, and make him the quarterback, and he was tougher than a $2 steak. I mean, and he really helped us because he ran the ball a lot. We didn't throw the ball very well that year, not only because of him, but because of protection issues that we had. And a couple of guys out there, receivers. I mean, that's one thing that you wanted to receive. You wanted one to be able to catch the football, So, but he was really a great transition for us, and he helped us get to the state championship game because of that transition. Because he would do anything to win. And he's down at Southeastern. He's a heck of a player, but the transition, taking him from a defense to the offense, and then he was on the offense, but then we moved the defense, and that's never easy. But every coach would like to have a quarterback in every classification, from the sophomore, junior, and maybe a freshman, and bring them up and get them ready. So when his time comes, he might come earlier than the others, but when his time comes, he's got a lot of experience and he knows the system. That's the most important thing, is that he knows the system.
Well, Coach, your school, your teams have always put a massive emphasis on junior varsity football and 8th grade football. And how much does that impact a program coming up?
When I first took over at St. Charles the year before, there were only 3 JV games. And one thing that we said that we're going to do, no matter what, we're going to play a lot of JV games, even if it meant some kids were doubling up. But we're going to try to play and make a full schedule, as many as we possibly can, and let those guys get out there. Because who cares if you win a JV game? Just make sure you play people. Just make sure you give them an opportunity, because you never know what you're going to stumble on. I always thought we play JV games on Wednesday. If you see a kid do it on Wednesday, he can do it on Friday. There's not much of a transition there. If he can do it on Wednesday, he can do it on Friday. But JV football is very, very important, and it gives them a chance and the excitement of knowing that we got this guy. I mean, he can do it. If he can't do it as a JV, he's probably not going to help you on Friday either.
Coach, in our next matchup, we have St. Charles taking on Martin Luther King Charter. St. Charles ranks number 1 in the power ratings. This is a game that they should feel confident going into. They've played really good football lately. What do you look for in the Comets to build towards in this matchup?
Well, these are one of those games that, everybody says, well, you're supposed to win this game, and rightly so. You can understand that because of the program, just because of the program and the stability that they have, and they're good in all phases. But yet on the flip side, you want a good solid win. You want your players to, and you want to come out of there unscathed. You don't want to have any injury in a game like this. And it is a district game. It is on the road. It is a Thursday night game, so your routine is a little bit out of sync, and that's something you worry about. But more importantly, the focus. You remember, the focus comes from the community, and it comes from all the voices on the outside. It comes from the media, and they say whether you're supposed to have. It doesn't always happen like that. That's why the odds makers in Vegas make a fortune, because it doesn't always end up like that. So this ball game, all you want your players to return the fundamentals and make sure that you're fundamentally sound, and it's not a sloppy performance, and do what you're supposed to do, and don't worry about your opponent. Always worry about yourself. Never look at the jersey that you're playing against. That was always a mantra of mine. Never look at the jersey. Just worry about what you're supposed to do. What's your job?
Thanks, Coach. And go ahead and look at our next segment, which will be college football. And looking at Tulane to start things off, a victory over Memphis 31-21. Big Friday night game on the road. We mentioned just a few weeks ago, this is not a game that they're normally going to win. On the road in Memphis is a tough place to play football, and they came out with a win. And ultimately, that's what matters, finding a way to win the game in a tough environment. And this is a very winnable division for Tulane. They have everything in front of them.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Jason. I think that you have to be careful, what happened from here on out. They were down by 2 scores, and they were very, very resilient and coming back and doing the little things you're supposed to do, a little bit of everything, because they had a nice return game. They do a great job, and Coach Fritz is responsible for this, and the head coach is. They do a great job of what I said earlier about complementary football. In other words, the head coach has to be involved in that. Head coach has to go to the offense coordinator and say, "Okay, we want to run it here. or the defense coordinator you might go to defense coordinator and say, we want to play it safe here and not blitz or blitz, and we're going to do this on special team. So the head coach has got to be directly involved with complementary football. So that's important. But nobody does it better than Tulane on their level. And so that was a big win, as you said earlier, against Memphis, and that hadn't happened since 1998. And it's just a credit to them. And I understand that they didn't play well in the first half, but in the second half, I think they realized that they made some great adjustments. I might add that Tulane's coaching staff, they do a super job of making adjustments at halftime.
And in their next game, they're going to go ahead and take on North Texas. Coach, what do you see in this matchup for Tulane?
North Texas is dangerous because they can score. They just scored a bunch of points on Troy, and everybody said, well, it was Troy. But they can score. They like the vertical route. They can scare you. When you talked about people that like to throw the ball deep, they only have to hit 2 or 3 of those. And before you know it, they become very, very explosive, and you're playing catch-up. Something like that. So it's just scary. Now, you might, even though Tulane's favored by a lot, the same thing I mentioned earlier, you hope that Tulane goes out there and take care of business, get out, as the game unfolds, make sure you get out quickly, so you don't have to play catch up. But is this a possible trap game after a big game like Memphis? Is this a trap game? I certainly hope not. And some coaches don't even like to say that. I don't either. I just think the bottom line, you focus on your own team and don't worry about your opponent.
Absolutely. Looking at our next game would be LSU, who took on Auburn, 148-18. For the majority of this game, Coach, other than a few red zone struggles at some moments, LSU dominated the ball game. There was after half, there's a few moments where you felt like Auburn could maybe have a chance, but they weren't able to do the one thing that they do really well, which is run the football. I thought LSU's defense played excellent. They had a lot of 4 down linemen, which allowed some of those guys to get more pressure that we discussed maybe had been a bit invisible. Howard Perkins played a heck of a ball game. The receivers had a nice day. However, if you're a fan, it's important to not get too hype on this one game because Auburn is a one-dimensional offense, and you haven't played the pass particularly well with that kind of patchwork defensive back crew that they have. So I think that's something to keep in mind.
Go back and look at it's all relative to the quarterback. And I mean, if you got a quarterback that's not a runner, because nowadays I think you need a mobile quarterback, and if he's not a runner, he better be a great thrower within a good system. And the quarterback was just average for the SEC. Put it that way. He's just average for them, and he probably get by maybe. And he's young. Maybe in the future he'll be a lot better. And it depends on your scheme. But with the zone read stuff, that's what LSU. You take Daniels out of LSU's offense, and they're average. But he just makes it go because there are a lot of coverages that you can't play with him. The 2 high safeties. He sees 2 high safeties. He's going to run the football. He sees one. He's going to go deep on you and stuff like that. So I mean, it makes a big difference. And credit to Jalen Daniels. And I didn't see the ball game. I just saw some clips of it. It seemed like the defense played better, and they need to play better because anything was better than what we've seen in previous weeks.
You're not wrong. It's not too hard to be better than what you have been lately. But the interesting thing is, Coach, this almost kind of has like a high school feel to it because you go from Auburn, an SEC matchup, and now you're going to take on Army, right? You have a game against Army this Saturday at 6:30. And what I mean by that is, I've said this many times, I think there's no job more difficult in high school sports than being a defensive coordinator for a high school football team because you can see 10 different teams and 10 completely different offenses. And this is an option-style team. They're going to block differently. They're going to play things differently. And these are guys who this is a break for them, right? This is a treat to get to go out and play football. So how does LSU have to take this game and approach this game from that mindset?
But the same, I think they worry more about themselves. They don't worry about Army. Army changed their offense. They're no longer in the triple option, and which I always thought was a mistake because I think the service academies need to be in triple option because of the style of guys that they get. They can't go out. They're not going to get those 5-star athletes to want to go in the military. So I mean, but they're a little bit more spread. They're not scoring many points, but they will be disciplined. They're not going to turn the ball over. And it'll get, and I think that LSU's thing, they're playing themselves this week. So focus on themselves and not about the opponent. And you certainly don't want to go out there and look sloppy, even though they should come out with a win. But the odds makers got them like a 3-touchdown favorite. And I don't like that either. As a coach, you don't like that because the kids, that gets into the kids' head. They know that. The media and people will tell you that. and they're already looking to the next ball game. One thing I might add to, and Scott Ravelli mentioned this in the paper today, and I'm glad he did. He said he hopes that the LSU fans, because they have a reputation of booing the opponent when they come out. He said, I hope that you refrain from that, because these are the people that will fight for us in the military. They make a 6-year commitment. These guys are not in the NIL. The NIL comes from the government. These guys have a 6-year commitment, and they're the ones defending our country. We'll defend our country, so we don't have to. So I think it'd be a lot of class if the fans didn't do that. If anything, they should give them a standing ovation.
Absolutely, Coach. I'm with you. And let's go ahead and move on to our Saints segment, where it's another rough game for the Saints, Coach. They take a loss to the Texans this week. What can they do to turn things around when they're going to take on the Jaguars in a week?
You know, it upsets me that Coach Carmichael is getting so much heat. I think he called a heck of a game. There was the receiver wide open that Carr overthrew. But you go back and look, the two tackles of their offensive line is not playing. The right tackle is not playing like he's supposed to. They got 3 guys up there that first-round draft choices, and Carr's he's got people in his face the whole day. And he takes a pretty good. He's a tough guy, but yet it's not the plays. I mean that are being called. The players have to execute the play. There's not many different routes. I don't know what people are talking about. There's not many different routes in the NFL. There's not many different running plays in the NFL. They moved the ball head over 450 yards, but they didn't score in the red zone. Their little kicker, Duhe, I mean, he's been really, really good, but he missed 2 field goals. I mean, that's not Pete Carmichael's fault. But I will say this too. I think the game changed. I thought the officiating in that ball game really, really stunk. I thought that the Saints just touched somebody. The Saints had like 8 or 9 penalties, and Houston had 2. And the last penalty wasn't until late in the fourth quarter. I said, wait a minute now. To me, there was like 2 separate teams. You mean to tell me they throw the ball that many times that they didn't have a holding call on Houston's side, and the Saints had several? And then I don't know what interference is anymore. I mean, you see both of them hand fighting, but yet the Saints get called on it numerous times. They had like 8 or 9 penalties in that ball game, so that needs to be mentioned and be looked at, because I really think that sometimes an offensive lineman gets a reputation, and I really think that people kind of honing in on him like they did their left tackle.
Coach, I'm going to ask you a question I think a lot of people want to ask head coaches or former head coaches. Is there a point or a limit where you, as a coach, say the officiating lost this game or the officiating cost us this game?
No, you can't. You can't say that. You can't say that. That's a cop-out for your team. And you don't want to embarrass an official because you can send in that tape. But I do think as a coach, you hold officials accountable on the sideline just like you do players. If I think there's a time if you think that your player was innocent, you have to go to that official and defend him, because that's what the players want. They want somebody to get that back. You got to defend that player. If you think that he wasn't holding, but yet you called holding, and it's the same guy is called holding. What about the Houston Texans offensive line? You mean to tell me they didn't have a holding call the whole ball game? That's kind of odd to me, and especially when that happens on the road. Something like that. So my point is, you're not cursing the official. You're not threatening the official, but you're making them accountable, and you should. They're getting paid for that. You're making them accountable just like your players. If your player messes up, you make him accountable. But I think officials should be held accountable too.
Thanks, Coach. And for the next week against the Jaguars, what can they do to turn it around?
Well, I don't know if Trevor Lawrence is going to play, and it's a short week. They're playing Thursday. So that's a very, very short week, and I'd really like to see them win and get to a winning streak, because that division right now is all up in the air. So, I mean, they're not out of it. I mean, a lot of people are already writing them off. They're not out of it, but I do think that they need to play better football. One thing that wasn't mentioned, Jason, I didn't mention this, and I'm going to mention it again. Early in that ball game, they picked off a pass, and the guy fumbles it back. That was a huge, huge momentum play, because they'd have been deep inside Houston's territory. It already up. They'd been deep inside territory. That was a big momentum play. But why do those things happen? Well, we're going to talk about that later on in my segment when I talk about ball security.
Thanks, Coach. And we're going to go ahead and take our break. And when we come back, we'll have our special guest, Ryan Perrilloux, Louisiana Hall of Fame inductee Ryan Perrilloux. And before we go to our break, we want to go ahead and thank our sponsors, Accardo and Dufresne Law Firm, your go-to River Parish lawyers. Samuel Accardo Jr. and Henri P. Dufresne, your go-to River Parish lawyers, experience, tenacity, and results. Sammy Accardo and Henri Dufresne provide comprehensive legal services in personal injury, hurricane claims, business litigation, successions, and estate planning. Our trial experience, know-how, and commitment to protect and serve our clients is unparalleled. We provide complete real estate, title, and escrow services through our affiliate, State Title LLC. The River Parishes is our home, and serving our communities is our passion. Based out of Gramercy, Louisiana, LSR produces Southern cane, pure cane sugar, which is only grown, refined, and packaged in Louisiana. LSR utilizes the latest innovations in technology, as well as ensuring the growth and stability of Louisiana's sugarcane farmers by integrating more than 800 growers in the industry's economic structure. Southern cane is available in your local Associated Grocers and Rouse's supermarkets.
Since 1972, Riverlands Insurance Services has been dedicated to securing the best insurance products and services available to protect you, your family, your assets, and your business. Our goal has been to establish a strong relationship and partnership between you, the insurance company, and our agency, creating a circle of success that prepares for disasters before they actually happen.
Our special guest tonight graduated from East St. John High School, where he amassed 12,705 total yards, ranking second all-time in state history, 925 passing yards, which ranks fourth all-time, and totaled 155 touchdowns during his time in high school. His 5,006 yards his senior year made it the most by any player in state history. He was named USA Today's Offensive Player of the Year and 2024 inductee into the Louisiana State Hall of Fame. And we want to welcome our special guest, Ryan Perrilloux. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you taking your time. And, you know, during your time at East St. John, you were so highly recruited. You were the number one ranked player in the country at the time. And I know things have changed with recruiting, but what would be your advice to some of these young guys who are getting hounded by all these recruiters?
Well, just, be patient. Of course, just discuss it with your family. And that's what I can say, be patient. So just to talk about it just a little bit, the recruiting process has changed a lot since I was getting recruited. You no longer have 25 coaches at your practice. It's an online thing. And I hope the kids and the coaches understand that, it's relationships. They need to, if you're going to a school, you need to develop a relationship. And the relationships I developed, I already knew that's the schools I wanted to go to because of the great people.
Mm-hmm. Right. Let me go back a little bit and listen, thanks on behalf of our whole crew here. Thanks for doing this tonight. I know you're a real busy person now. First of all, congratulations for being inducted in the Hall of Fame. And what's your reaction to that?
Well, Coach, I'm over here. I'm like a little kid again, Coach. Like that young man that can't sleep at night, and just so thankful. And the appreciation of the game. The game don't owe you nothing. I got older and I realized that I owed everything to the game, because the game's going to be here when we're here and when we're not.
Well said. Well said.
And I just appreciated going out there and work hard and to be able to be remembered with my efforts is a big, huge blessing to me and my family.
Right. Coach Dautrive always spoke so high level. You guys are very, very close, even to the day, but I remember you coming up as a sophomore. And one thing I can remember, your ability, and you could really spin the ball. I mean, when you throw a pass, that tight spiral that would just cut the wind. And, receivers like that better because it's easier to catch because they know where the cone and football was. Who taught you how to throw the ball?
So just to start from the beginning, when I first started, I started in an organization called Force Fighters.
I remember it. Mm-hmm.
I played with Force for a long time with Coach Eric Rogers, Paul, and then from there I moved on to Noah. And that's where I learned my fundamentals in those two recreational programs before Coach Eric decided to say, you know what, we're going to start something called the Heat program. And that's when we moved over to Heat. When I first started learning the new throwing motions that these kids are doing today, I actually was never taught that. I tore my ACL, and I used to wear this big old thing on my leg, Coach. And so as I'm wearing it on my leg, I still don't want to miss practice. And Coach Dotrieve don't mind. Well, if you're going to throw, come throw. And that's when I developed the throwing motion that the kids use today by leaving that back foot behind, being more accurate, along with having the arm strength. And that's kind of how I learned it. It was kind of just natural.
I remember you when you got hurt, though, Coach. You were not supposed to come back that soon, Ryan, but you were so determined, you came back halfway through the time that the doctor had actually prescribed for you, didn't you?
Yes. Coach Dotrieve was surprised because, you know, him and his wife was there. The day I got out of surgery, it was him and his wife and my mom. That was the three people I saw the day I opened up my eyes after the ACL surgery. And I just started going to rehab. I rehabbed with Tyler LaFosse. Great man. He won a national championship as well at LSU. And I just worked hard to get back, and I missed that jamboree, but I made it back, Coach, for that first game against Lutcher.
No question. I mean, everybody praised you for that because nowadays you'd have been out for like 6 years. You know what I mean? Because they taking
Coach,
time off.
You know, nowadays, Coach, they out.
Yeah, no question. Everything.
Bang their ankle up there, out 8 weeks.
Yep, we talked about that on this show a lot. I mean, with concussion, everybody gets that. It's no such thing as being dinged anymore. It's called a concussion. But Ryan, also, you were first recruited by the University of Texas, weren't you?
Well, the first offer I ever had, and yes, Texas is correct, but it was Texas A&M. They were the first people to say, you know what, that he's a guy. I was 14 years old, Coach. And man, that was so good. I went home with that letter, and my mom and everybody was so excited. And that made me work even harder. That's when I started training with Tom Shaw and Duke, Coach.
Was Coach Slocum there at the time? Who's the head coach? Coach Slocum was the head coach at Texas A&M at the time.
I don't remember on hand right now, Coach.
Right. I think.
But I have all the letters.
Right.
But what I do know is this: it boosts me into saying, okay, this is something that you can do and be a guy.
Right. But I remember you, Coach, you had to come into that SEC. You had to come into the game in that SEC to help LSU with the SEC, lead them to the SEC championship because you came in that Tennessee game and led them to a victory. Talk to us a little bit about that game. Okay,
so that game is one of the best games. So that week, Coach, I was not knowing that I was going to start that week. So as we're preparing for the week, I'm taking all the first team reps. And as we get to the game, when we're preparing, Coach, that's the part that got me a little bit because it looked like I wasn't going to start. Flynn, all of a sudden, you labor him not hurt. I was like, ooh, Lord, Flynn slinging that thing out here in warm-ups. But right before the very first snap, that's when Coach Miles told me, let's go ones. Let's go, Perrilloux, you up. And I prepared to be that guy. And I was ready that night.
No question. And you had a lot of success, and that was a big, big win for you guys. Because I know one thing that LSU was really proud. Coach Miles really, really high on you as an athlete. Because you had so much going for you. Coach, what about your stay at Jacksonville State? Tell us about that a little bit. And then you became the backup to Eli Manning at New York, did you?
Yes, sir. So when I got to Jacksonville State, that was the best thing that ever happened to me, Coach, because I had the chance to sit back and relax a little bit, kind of calm down. kind of like, for me and the way I was brought up in sports, when I was able to show the world that I was a great player, a lot of things was like this. Oh, you're going to make us a lot of money. Oh, you the best. So you know what I did? I went to LSU with the wrong mindset. The mindset I was supposed to have was this right here, coach. I was supposed to go there and learn, get my education, and be a great football player. I was supposed to leave a lot of those distractions alone. So what happened when I got to Jacksonville State, I had no more distractions. That's where I learned how to barbecue, coach. And the chicken good.
You learned how to cook dead chicken, huh? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That is great. That is great news right there. But that's real good advice, too.
Coach, I'm not a barbecue now. I had to leave the distractions to learn how to barbecue.
That's great. Well, Ryan, I tell people this all the time. I didn't know there was another restaurant that didn't have a drive-up window. That's all I think I knew.
Come on now, coach.
But Ryan, touching back a little bit, right now you're such a runner and a thrower. Nowadays with all the RPO stuff and the quarterbacks that can run, a lot like Jalen Daniels, right? How would you like to be playing with that same system because your running ability and your throwing ability nowadays?
Well, so I know that we created something. Coach Dauterive actually brought it to me because when I was playing with Coach Stevens, who is a hell of a coach, but we ran a very meek offense. Mm-hmm. And then Coach Dauterive came in and he expanded it. But Jaden Daniels is running the offense I ran. Mm-hmm. Being able to be explosive both ways, make plays. It's hard to run up on a guy that could throw for 300 and rush for 50 to 100 yards week in and week out. That's tough.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels is my Heisman Trophy pick. I believe in that young man. LSU, yes, we're struggling on defense, but we're not struggling on offense or at the quarterback position at all. Not with Jaden.
No, he's a great runner. What people don't realize about him, because I got to meet him in the Manning camp, is that how tall he is, and he's not fragile. He's a tough son of a gun, And,
yes.
Now I don't know if he spins it as good as you did, Ryan, but he can really run. He's got great speed. He can run away from people. But with the Ryan always talking about with the rules now, where the lineman can actually get up the field on screen passes and anything that's thrown behind the line of scrimmage, and plus the RPO things. And Saban's been arguing about that for a long time. How some of these linemen get up the field into the linebacker position, and sometimes that's what I thought you would be a natural for that with probably more yards maybe than you already have. But let me ask you this: what's your feeling, Ryan, about the transfer portal?
Oh, Coach. To me, it's not it's so just like back what we was talking about, Coach. So when I was coming out, the coaches, you actually developed a relationship. Nowadays, there's no relationships being built. It's all online. So when you get to the school and it's not what you want, you just leaving. You're not even taking the time to develop. So it's never going to work no matter where you go. So I believe in the old system. I believe in, you pick a spot, you go there and you be there, Coach. I don't believe in transferring. I didn't want to transfer when I left LSU.
Right. You believe in being loyal to the people that gave you that offer, that scholarship.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
that's what I believe in.
Right. And where's this NIL thing headed, Ryan? Where are we headed with this? Is there a limit?
It's not a good place.
Someone told me the other day, I don't know if I didn't verify this, that the University of Utah, their whole football team got a truck.
Oh, man. It's not a good place. These kids don't deserve. Where did they, high school is great. You've worked hard, but where did you earn that? NIL shouldn't start kicking in until after year 3. That means either you're going to the NFL or you can stay one more year, then get your NIL.
That's a good point. Yeah, I've never heard that point. That's a good point.
Because I don't believe in giving these kids money that early. They quit on you.
That's right.
They feel like they got their money. I don't believe in that. I only believed in the game.
There was something that came out today, Ryan, that LSU got a pitcher, a center fielder. They got the Dan's the quarterback. They got a basketball player and a gymnast. All are millionaires.
Yes, and then we just sit back, and they're going to still be millionaires. But in 3 years, they're going to be millionaires. But are they going to be an example? Are they going to go work hard? Are they going to still go through all them strikes? Or they feel like they got the money already?
Right.
And that's me, Coach. And I'm not biased. I believe that the kids do need to be compensated. But I don't believe that they need to be making money that's outside of their means, knowing that they have not won one championship yet.
That's it. You bring up some good points, Ryan. So someone that's been there, right? What exactly are you doing now? Tell us what you're doing now.
So I coach my quarterbacks. Perrilloux Passing Academy. We coach the quarterbacks. We coach them at a high level. We have Ryan Brooks. If you remember Ryan Brooks, he played with the Philadelphia Eagles, Marlon Favorite, Skylar Green. We all come together and we just coach these kids at a high level week in and week out.
Oh, that's great. That's great. They need a lot of that. At the Manning camp, there are a number of people that do that. They go around the country, Ryan, doing that. They call themselves quarterback country or something like that. They have labels and there's a big need for that because a lot of kids would love that individual instruction, and nobody can teach them how to throw better than you can because you probably.
Well, Coach, I can still spin it, Coach.
I've seen you throw the ball 70 yards in the air before.
Yes, sir.
Because some people can throw 70 yards, but they can't hit the Pacific Ocean. But you were pretty accurate with yours.
Yes, Coach, and just a beautiful story to talk about. I remember when I was playing for the Minnesota Vikings. And I came home, Coach, and you was out there cutting them grass at St. Charles. And I was like, Coach, can I come train? And, Coach, you opened them doors up wide open for me to come and train, Coach. And that's why you're such a special man, Coach. And where I'm at, and for these young men, what I want them to know is that every coach that ever came into my life, I can still talk to my coaches.
Yeah, well, you were loyal to them, and you deserve that because you're exactly what it epitomizes exactly what high school athletics and college athletics is supposed to be, Ryan. Exactly that. Well, listen, we appreciate you taking your time to do this. We want you to stay in touch. Congratulations again. We'll be there in spring for your induction ceremony. Smile pretty. The whole deal. That's a quite a tribute that night. And Coach Dautrive and I both I'm sure we'll be there. And we're both members of that group. So it's like they stooped down to a lower level to put me in there. But
Coach, I'm joining y'all, Coach. I'm excited. My mom, I gave my mom a big hug. My mom gave me a big kiss. My mom ain't kissed me real big. For a long time. She always hugged me, but that was a big kiss when I got inducted with y'all, Coach.
Well, let's make sure your picture's next to mine, because it'll make you look better. But Ryan, thank you so much. We appreciate you taking your time to do this.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is that okay? And listen,
yes,
good night, and please, if you ever need anything, you know where we are. Give us a call.
Sir.
Just don't call collect. Okay.
We'd like to once again thank Ryan Perrilloux for joining us on the Let's Be Frank video podcast. We'd also like to thank LSR for being our sponsor on this show. LSR produces Southern Cane, pure cane sugar, which is only grown, refined, and packaged in Louisiana. Southern Cane is available in your local Associated Grocers and Ross's supermarkets. Samuel Liccardo Jr. and Henri P. Dufresne, your go-to River Parish lawyers. Experience, tenacity, and results.
Sammy Accardo and Henri Dufresne provide comprehensive legal services in personal injury, hurricane claims, business litigation, successions, and estate planning. Our trial experience, know-how, and commitment to protect and serve our clients is unparalleled. We provide complete real estate, title, and escrow services through our affiliate, State Title LLC. The River Parishes is our home, and serving our communities is our passion. Based out of Gramercy, Louisiana, LSR produces Southern cane, pure cane sugar, which is only grown, refined, and packaged in Louisiana. LSR utilizes the latest innovations in technology, as well as ensuring the growth and stability of Louisiana's sugarcane farmers by integrating more than 800 growers in the industry's economic structure. Southern cane is available in your local Associated Grocers and Rouse's supermarkets.
Since 1972, Riverlands Insurance Services has been dedicated to securing the best insurance products and services available to protect you, your family, your assets, and your business. Our goal has been to establish a strong relationship and partnership between you, the insurance company, and our agency, creating a circle of success that prepares for disasters before they actually happen.
Welcome into segment number 3, our Let's Be Frank segment. Before we get started, we'd like to thank Riverlands Insurance for sponsoring the Let's Be Frank video podcast. Since 1972, Riverlands Insurance Services has been dedicated to securing the best insurance products and services available to protect you, your family, your assets, and your business. So we'll go ahead and head on to our Let's Be Frank segment presented by ULCS. Coach, this week you want to talk about the influence and the impact of the 40-second play clock in high school football.
Okay, the 40-second clock, guys, has been something new that they brought into high school football. Colleges have been using it. It's really made an impact on the game as far as it made the game shorter. There are less plays that are being run in the game, but it's been a more efficient game. And it takes the gray out for coaches. In other words, what I mean by that is that the gray know right, the people know right away, because in the old days, an official that was slow, he would wait forever to set the clock. And some other official in the next ball game would set it quickly. So it was a kind of a yo-yo effect for coaches. Wait a minute, how is he going to set the clock? Well, now it's taken in the press box, and that 40-second clock is orchestrated up there, and it's automatic, and it's very, very consistent on how they do this. So you know exactly how much time you have. Now, can they mess up? Yeah, sometimes the communication between the 40-second clock operator and the white hat is a mess up, and they have to stop the game or reset the clock. You see with their hand in the air, that means they reset the clock. But it's made the game faster. It made the game more efficient. It's taken the gray out. But I did see, I watched the game earlier in the year where there was a team that wanted to take the penalty. The 40-second clock ran out, but there was no communication, and all of a sudden the white hat on the field allowed another 40 seconds to go, and the other team actually had time to sub. They weren't going to punt the ball. Then he had time to go in the field, and he actually ran the ball on 4th down. It was 4th down and 1, and he made the 1st down. Turned the whole game around because of miscommunication. But for the most part, it's been better for high school football because as a coach on the sideline, he looks, everybody's got 40-second clocks, so a coach knows that he looks at the 40-second clock and how much time he has, and there's one on each side of the field. So if the quarterback, you tell the quarterback, if you watch that clock right there, then you call timeout, and there should be no reason for you to have a delay of game if you get to play in time and you know what you're doing. So just be alert. So the 40-second clock has speeded up the ball game. It's made it a little bit faster. It's made the game a lot more efficient when it comes to that, as long as the officials communicate with the clock operator that's upstairs. And he's part of that crew, I might add, and he's paid by that crew. He's not someone from the school. It's not like basketball. He's paid by that particular crew.
Thank you, Coach. And moving on to our next segment, we have our Blitz the Ball Coach segment. which is going to discuss what is the impact of high school football on a community.
Okay, let me say this: that this is really, really big in my mind. The importance of football in high school is just you can't put a measuring stick on it. But I will say this: it changes the culture of the whole school, the whole community during that time in the fall. A lot of principals would not like this, but it's called the discipline during football season in the high school. In high school, it's a lot better. And you go back and you talk to most principals, they'll admit that during the season. Now, why is that? Well, it's all about structure. You're giving kids structure. You're making them accountable. Not only is the football team more accountable, but all the cheerleaders, star stuff, the band members, all the people associated with it, it makes them accountable. That discipline is very, very important. And the excitement in the school and the community with signs and with pep rallies and the excitement, especially on Friday, the big rivalry game. I mean, you can't get that out of a can of a corn soup. You know what I mean? So that's so important. And people, all of a sudden, if you start having success, the kids in the school, they want to go out and be part of that. And all of a sudden, your numbers will grow. The exposure that you get, and just remember how far-reaching that is. You bring the community together, families together, tailgating, pep rallies, booster clubs, fundraisers. It's all your names in the newspaper. You get a lot of exposure, and a lot of people don't like that. The fact that with athletics gets a lot of exposure, you're going to get your name in the paper, on a weekly basis, and it has a domino effect. It becomes contagious throughout the parish and the decorating, the whole thing. It perpetuates the fact that kids want to be part of something, and kids want to be part of a successful program. And nobody wants to walk around with a T-shirt with a loser on it. Whoever wins the World Series, whoever wins the NFL, you can see those sales go out of the roof. So I mean, it's all part of being success. And there's the old saying that says success breeds success, and that's especially true. And this is what football brings to a community. The restaurants are full, the bars are full. It becomes a huge social event on a Friday night, and kids want to be part of it. And I think that's very, very important. And I think that the importance of sports, it just goes to show the importance of sports in high school athletics. And I always say that sports have become the front porch of any high school, and it gives you immediate recognition, immediate injection into society.
Coach, I don't know the specific numbers on St. Charles anymore, but approximately how many students they have? 500, is it? It's around.
No, it's 400.
Okay, so
420.
Okay, so 400. So I went to a game, to further your point, I went to a game a few weeks back. St. Charles football has around 115 kids that play on the team. You got another 10 to 15 members on the band. You got combined between the cheerleaders and the dancers, probably another
60.
That's my point. So that's half the school. That's half the school population that's involved in that one game. That's not to mention the kids that are all in the stands screaming in the student section. When you describe the impact that it has, it's undeniable. It gets everybody excited to a common purpose, to a common goal. And I love what high school sports, in particular football, of course, but in general, what it does.
Yeah, and just remember, for every kid on that field, whether they're dressed out, whether they're dancing on or cheerleading or whatever, not only you have two parents, there's a chance you might have four grandparents there. You know what I mean? So they all want to see them, no matter how short it is. But anyway, the culture of the whole community changes.
Thank you, Coach. And before we go ahead and head to our lock of the week, let's talk some MLB playoffs. A lot of crazy things happening there that we haven't really seen before. You want to go ahead and talk about it?
Well, I thought it was so interesting because you had three teams, Baltimore and Atlanta and the Dodgers, all had over 100 wins. Now there's not one team, and they're all been eliminated. There's not one team that had more than 90 wins that's still left. So it's just amazing when it's happened. The Dodgers, for instance, for the last 5 years have won over 100 ball games, and they have not gotten to the pennant. So, I mean, this is really, really a unique year. It's an exciting year. This is the first time they've been to 12 teams in the playoffs. And now they're really complaining about the fact that those teams that got byes all had a 4 to 5 game layoff, and they complained about that was too long for baseball, and every one of them was defeated. So you can see the competition committee really, really got their wheels turning about, was that the best thing to do?
Thanks, Coach. And moving on to our final segment, we have the lock of the week. I lost last week. I took Colorado. Unfortunately, they've been kind of my bread and butter for a minute there, but apparently not the greatest pick in the world. Coach, who do you have this week?
Jason, before the Colorado game was phenomenal. Got home from the high school game and got a chance to watch it. It ended about 1:30 that night. But I never seen Stanford work the ball down the field to one receiver on 4 consecutive routes, the same route 4 consecutive times. And I mean, it was unbelievable. It was like playground ball. So I'm going to throw it to this guy. Then later on, the guy catches the ball off the back of a defender. I've never seen anything like that. But anyway, they did come back to win the ball game. That was great. But my pick this week is going to be Oregon. And I was really impressed with Oregon, even though they got beat by Washington. But they were on the road, but I was really impressed with them. I think they will come out mad and try to get back in that top 4 and try to get themselves into that championship series.
Coach, I'm going to pick a team I wouldn't have thought I would pick coming into the season. I like Missouri. Missouri has 6.5. They're at home against South Carolina. South Carolina, I feel like, is licking their wounds a bit after a tough loss this past weekend. I like Missouri. I think they're a team that is a bit of a surprise, similar to Duke, not a team that people expect to be there, but that's why I think you're seeing that line in Vegas a little bit low. I would maybe even consider it a little bit low where it is. So I like Missouri in that game at 6.5.
Okay. All right.
So let's go ahead and plug our social media before we get out of here. You can go ahead and follow us on Facebook at the Let's Be Frank Video Podcast. Follow us on Twitter or X, Instagram, and TikTok at the LBF Podcast. And that'll do it for tonight. So, Coach, who do we have next week?
We have Coach Frank Wilson, running back coach at LSU University on their open week. So we're very, very fortunate to get him to come.
All right, thank you, Coach. So that'll do it for us. So for Justin Thomas, for head coach Frank Monica, I am Jason Duhe. And remember, Leslie Bonter will let the good times roll.
Please pray for the people in Israel, everybody.